Hi, it's Willow here, and I'm here today to do a little video on Berkey water filter systems and to address some of the controversy that is coming out about Berkey water filter systems these days. I'm going to try to address that and try to put it into context. As a person who has had a Berkey water filtration system for about 6 years, almost 6 years now, I purchased my Berkey system and started using it in December 2016, and I'm making this video in October 2022, so coming up on 6 years, and I have been happy with the quality of water that has come through the Berkey, but it's come to my attention that the estimates for the longevity of the filters have been probably overstated by the Berkey company. Okay. Now, I don't think that that is necessarily something nefarious, but it is true that I think they've overstated how long you can use these filters. Okay. Okay. So just to put this in context, I'm a person who was poisoned by a fluoroquinolone antibiotic called ciprofloxacin, produced by Bayer Monsanto Corporation. Evil bastards. And so basically for the past 13 years, I have had a number of different symptoms, a number of different problems from that poisoning. One of the things is severe chemical sensitivities, severe food allergies, tendon and connective tissue damage all throughout my body, digestive problems, etc., etc. Okay, inflammation issues. And I will say that I cannot drink tap water without becoming disabled. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there. So tap water has so many chemicals and so many pollutants in it, including pharmaceuticals, including fluoroquinolone antibiotic residue, that if I drink tap water, if I drink one glass of tap water, I will pretty much instantly have some mild symptoms. If I drank tap water for a week or a month, I would be pretty well bedridden. My tendons and connective tissue would be so flared up that I would be non-functional. Okay, so in a way, I'm sort of a canary in the coal mine as far as water quality. Okay, and I'm here to tell you, tap water, the water that's coming through city taps, is not healthy for people. Okay, it's not. It's just not. If you have any type of a health condition, water quality and water filtration has to be pretty high on your priority list. Okay, so yes, cannot drink tap water. And when I moved to I moved to a new town, and I don't know why, I thought maybe, oh, I'm living in the mountains, maybe the water's not so bad here. I started drinking the tap water, and within a few months, like I say, I was non-functional. I couldn't walk for long periods of time. I couldn't stand for long periods of time. I couldn't sit. I was in constant pain, yada, yada. Okay, so I researched into water filtration systems, and there were pros and cons with different systems. I was renting at the time, so one of the reasons that I really liked the Berkey was that it didn't require any plumbing infrastructure, so I wasn't having to invest in a property that I was then going to leave later on, right? Berkey filter is portable, so you just take it with you when you leave. I also liked the idea that I was in control of the whole process. I didn't have to rely on a company or a delivery service or a grocery store. I don't drive, so that was another factor. Basically, I would have had to have reverse osmosis water delivered to my home. And so again, that's number one, very expensive. The Berkey filter is definitely, over time, the Berkey filter is definitely substantially cheaper than buying reverse osmosis water, and particularly having it delivered. Okay, so and then also, it's a prepper thing, right? So basically, in case of calamity, in case the power grid goes down, in case our water system goes down, it's something that you can literally just you can filter water out of a stream, out of a river, out of whatever. So there were a few factors into why I decided on the Berkey system. Okay, now again, you might be in totally different circumstances. You might be in a long-term home that you own, and you might want to shell out the cash to put in a reverse osmosis system and put the plumbing in and the faucet and all that type of stuff, right? Okay, Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, I'm not endorsing this company. I'm just saying that I've used it and I've been happy with the results. But there are some glitches. Okay, there are some glitches with Berkey, and the thing about it is that I don't think there's any water filtration system out there that's like perfect with zero issues, zero irritating elements to it. I believe a reverse osmosis system that you install, you also have to change the filters regularly. Sometimes they're not that easy to change. Basically there's no system that's going to be absolutely perfect. Okay. So do research and look into what works best for your situation. Okay, the other thing is that there's really no way to know 100% what is being filtered out of your water and what's being left in your water without testing your water, and without testing it probably fairly regularly, okay? Because again, these filters lose a certain amount of efficacy over time, okay? So even with a reverse osmosis system, some reverse osmosis systems don't filter out fluoride, for example. Some claim they do. The ones that do sometimes say they can only filter 80 to 90% of the fluoride. So again, it's, you're kind of trading 6 of one for half a dozen of the other. You're choosing which system is going to work best for you. None of them are going to be like absolutely perfect, okay? So just right there. Now, okay, yeah. So one company that I've heard of repeatedly that is about filtering your water or testing your water, is called Tap Score. Okay, Tap Score, literally. That's what it is. And so I've seen people's tests of the Berkey water, and it is doing what it says it's doing. It's filtering out almost all of the contaminants out of the water. Okay, now the question, the controversy, isn't actually so much are the Berkey filters working? Again, it's how long do they work? How long are they going to be at optimal filtering capacity, and when do you have to change them to make sure that they're at their filtering capacity? Okay, so that in that case, for example, you might need to get your water tested regularly or semi-regularly if you really want to stay on top of like pristine conditions. Okay, but like I say, my body basically tells me when I've been exposed to chemicals, pharmaceuticals, any type of pollutant or contaminant that is not good for me, okay? And so I will say that I have had my Berkey filters for almost 6 years, and I just changed them now, okay? And I have not noticed any ill effects from the water in that 6-year period. Like I said, prior to that, I was on tap water, and I was pretty well debilitated by tap water. And even today, if I go out to a coffee shop and I drink a cup of coffee with city tap water, I feel the effects almost like pretty much immediately. Okay, so oh, sorry, lost my train of thought here. Yeah, so 6 years. So, but what the Berkey information says is that basically for one person like me, the amount of water that I use in a day, these filters could have lasted up to like 12 years. Okay, that's what their literature says. Now, I was always a bit leery of that because I thought 12 years, like one set of filters, 12 years filtration, that seems a bit extreme to me. So in my mind, I was kind of thinking, well, I'll err on the side of caution and I'll change these filters out earlier than 12 years, but I didn't know exactly. I was sort of shooting for 7 years. Okay, well, what the Berkey system says, sorry if I'm talking too loud, I probably am. What the Berkey company says is that the way to test your system when you first get it, and then periodically later on, is to put red food coloring in the water. And if the red food coloring is filtered completely out of the water, that means that your filters are working optimally. So that means they're filtering out everything that they can filter out of your water. Okay, so I just did the red food coloring test again, just under 6 years of using my filters for one person. And I have a big Berkey and I fill it up every 2 days. Okay, so that's how much water I go through. Every 2 days, I fill up my Berkey. Once in a while, I might fill it up every day if I'm using water for other things. I drink it, I use it to cook, I use it to water my plants. That's basically what I use it for. So I just did the red food coloring test to see how optimally these are working. And I will say I wasn't having any problems with the water, like i.e. I wasn't having any body effects, I wasn't having any digestive effects. I couldn't smell any chlorine. I can certainly smell chlorine right out of the tap. I couldn't smell any chlorine. I couldn't taste any chlorine. And it looked, without the food coloring in it, it looked perfectly clear. So I wasn't having any issues coming up on the 6-year mark. I wasn't having any obvious issues with these filters. Okay, but I did the red food coloring test, and it turned out that there was a hint, just the slightest tinge of pink in the water. And when it first came out, I was like, oh no, it's fine, it's good. But then I sat it on the counter and I looked at it and I thought, is there just a tiny hint of a pink in there? So I was walking around all throughout my house, putting it under different light. I took it into the bathroom where the light's really bright. And it was back and forth. I was like, no, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. No, it's not. I know. I think there might be a tiny bit of pink. So what I did was I took some water that I had out of the fridge, right, that wasn't used with this red food coloring test, and I compared it, and then I could see, okay, there's just a hair, just a slight tinge of pink to this. Okay, so in my mind, that tells me, well, these filters are no longer filtering to their absolute optimum capacity, but I'm not having any ill effects from the water. I don't smell anything in the water. So based on how stringent you want to be with your water filtration, again, those same filters that I'd been using for almost 6 years, you could probably get another year out of them, or even 2 maybe, before you have to officially change them out. Okay, so the idea again is like, I don't know that there is, number one, it's absolutely terribly sad that we have to go to these lengths not to be poisoned these days by our water, but by a number of different, avenues. I'm pretty heartsick over this in general, that this is the state of our water and this is the state of our everything, our food, our air, our soil, our electromagnetic radiation we're being poisoned with. It just never ends. So it's sad. It's sad that we have to go to these lengths. But at the same time, we can only do our best, right? And we can't live in a state of constant fear and terror that we're being poisoned all the time. So again, because I wasn't having any ill effects from this water, I think it was definitely far and away better than city tap water. Okay, so even after almost 6 years, these filters were doing a heck of a job improving the city tap water, right? But was it as clear as it should have been? No, because it did have a very slight tint of red. Okay, so again, like I say, I'm one person. I fill up my Berkey every 2 days. I drink quite a lot of water, okay, and I've had to change my filters just before the 6-year mark. So to be safe, I would suggest maybe the 5-year mark. And again, if you do this red food coloring test, you should be able to tell, when your filters are at the slightly less optimal level, and then change them out. Now, changing the filters every 5 years is still, for me, a dramatic savings in money. Again, based on buying reverse osmosis water in the jugs and getting those delivered. The Berkey is still much more affordable than that. Okay, so that kind of being my go-to. Is it more affordable than putting in a reverse osmosis system, like putting it into the plumbing of the place? Again, I'm not totally sure about that. So as far as the controversy about Berkey overstating the longevity of the filters, I would say there is some merit to that, but that doesn't mean that the filters don't work or that they're not still a good investment for some people in some conditions, right? So I would say that, you know, I've been happy with the quality of the water that I've had over the past 6 years. And again, I haven't had it tested through TAPSCOR or anything like that. I will say also that the government standards, the government water testing is much more, is not as thorough as a company like TAPSCOR. So they just kind of do a you know, roundabout. They maybe only test for a few things. I don't know exactly, but yeah. So if you're sending your water to a government facility, you probably won't have as sensitive results as you would if you go through a company like TAPSCOR. But again, the only way we can really 100% know what's being filtered out of our water and what's being left in is to get it tested. Okay, so overall, I would still say that Berkey is a viable company. I will say that their customer service sucks. That's what I've seen too. I got not very helpful emails from the guy, the company, I don't know, that I bought it from. He seemed a little snippy, you know, not helpful. Okay, not helpful. And that's what people have found when they're asking Berkey about this, when they're saying like, how did you determine how long these filters are supposed to last, and they're just evading people, they're ghosting people, they're not responding. That's shit customer service, straight up. And honestly, if I hadn't purchased one of these and used one of these for the past 6 years, that would give me pause too. I would say, oh, are they just a bunch of shysters? Like, what, you know, is this a scam? Like, what's going on here? You know, why won't they stand behind their product? Why won't they provide customer service? You know, all this kind of thing. Now, the fact that, like, I agree, that's shoddy. That is shoddy customer service every which way. But that doesn't mean that the product is shoddy as well. Okay. So at least for my purposes, it has worked. Okay, it has worked for this amount of time. I don't care so much about NSF certification, because to me it's kind of like the way that some farmers don't get organic certification because it's extremely expensive and there's a lot of bureaucratic hoops and you got to be monitored and all this type of thing. So it adds expense to the product to jump through those hoops to get that organic certification. So if a third-party lab is doing it, or if, you know, the NSF people are doing it, that's not as critical an issue to me, as long as the stuff is being filtered out. And like I said, I've seen a couple videos now of people who have filtered out the water, and it is removing the contaminants. Okay, so the other major issue with Berkey filters, and people should be aware of this too because it is extremely frustrating. I would say the number one flaw, or the number one bad element about Berkey, other than its not so great customer service, and it's overstating how long the filters will last, is priming the filters. Okay, priming those filters. It can be a nightmarishly frustrating task, and I'm going to show you guys. Okay, so Berkey basically looks like a coffee urn, okay? And you have a top section that you fill up, and the black filters are in there. The bottom section is where the water filters into. There's a spigot where you draw the water out, and then the fluoride filters, if you have them, go in the bottom section, twisted onto the black filters. Okay, so the black filters are the main filters, and this is what they look like. And you can use either 2 or 4 in your system. I use 2. Okay, and priming them. The problem with priming them is that these bad boys were designed to work with old school faucets. Like, so the small, kind of very sturdy faucets, they're very short. And nowadays, not very many people have those faucets anymore. So I think Berkey, again, needs to step it up and figure out a way that it's easier to prime these puppies, because that is the number one concern, especially the first time. Because the first time you have to fill them up with so much water that it is an exercise in frustration, I'm not going to lie. Okay, so this is what they call a priming button. And what you do is you put this on the very end of this stem here. And actually there's a little lug nut thing that you should put on as well. I don't have it on here to hold it in place. But basically what you do is you press this up very firmly to your faucet. You turn the water on, a small stream, and then you basically have to create a seal so that it forces the water into this and fills this whole thing up with water, okay? And what the goal you're looking for is for it to start beading outside of it. That's how you know that it's full. Well, with my faucet, it does not bead, okay? So you never get to the achieved result, and it is, you're pulling your hair out trying to get these things filled up. Because again, so the old school faucet would only come to about here, right? So you'd be able to put your thumb there and you'd be able to push down and push up simultaneously and create a seal so that it's forcing the water in there. And it probably only takes, I don't know, 10 minutes to or less to do them if you have an old school faucet. But the problem is that not very many people have those old school faucets anymore. And so the newfangled faucets, number one, they're much less sturdy than the old faucets. Like they're usually made out of plastic or something, everything's made out of plastic these days. So, it's harder that way. And then also there's just not a place to put your thumb to make that seal. So again, it's really challenging. It takes a lot longer. You have to have a lot more patience and a lot more upper body strength in order to try to force that seal and force that water in. Now, I will say that eventually you will get it, okay? Eventually you'll get it, but it'll be an extremely frustrating process as you do that. Now, they also have a hand priming pump that has been designed so that you can prime them if there's no water or there's no water pressure, okay? And I'm seriously considering investing in one of those just to see if it's easier. Like I said, I did eventually get these primed, but I was pretty much at my wit's end before I got them done. And it's always been like this. So my first set were like this. I did a set for my mom. It was a nightmare. So it's really difficult to get them primed for the first time. If you have to reprime them later on, it's easier because they're already partially filled with water. You just need to kind of top them up. The first time, just don't give up, okay? Don't give up. Just keep trying. And eventually you should be able to do it, okay? Again, if you can't, maybe look into the hand priming pump because that's another, and yes, you have to shell out for another accessory, which isn't great, but that's the way it is. Okay, so that is the Black Berkey, and those filter out most of the contaminants. Then you can also buy fluoride and arsenic filters, and they look like this, and you do the same thing with them. Now, I didn't find them as hard to prime because you're actually just kind of letting the water run through them. So I found these a lot easier to prime. And basically how this is that these ones go on the top and then these screw on to the bottom. And you've got a double set of filters. Okay, so like I say, I would say for me, one person to be on the safe side, I will probably look to change the Black Berkey filters about every 5 years. And so of course, if you have 2 people in your family, right, you're a couple, that'll be every 2.5 years. If you have 4 people in your family, that'll be just over a year. So again, you definitely do have to price it out and see, because these filters are not cheap for sure. And so you have to price it out and see, is this financially viable or is there a better option, right? And the fluoride filters, for one person, they have to be changed about every 2 years. And so again, if it's for a couple, every 1 year. If it's a family of 4, every 6 months, these have to be changed. Okay, so that's basically kind of it in a nutshell as far as the controversy and also the reality of Berkey water. It's going to be a personal choice, and we're all doing the best we can to try to fend off all the toxic garbage that's being tossed our way left and right. The other controversy specifically about these fluoride and arsenic filters is that I believe it uses alumina silicate to filter out the fluoride and the arsenic, and it also filters out other heavy metals. And so people are kind of up in arms about that because they're saying, well, it's aluminum, it's toxic. But aluminum and aluminosilicate are not the same. And the stance that Berkey has is that aluminosilicate is not absorbed by the body. Okay. So again, that's something else you're going to have to look into. If that freaks you out and creeps you out, I mean, it's not ideal, but we're not living in ideal circumstances, period. So if that, if that's a deal breaker for you, then that's not, the Berkey system is not for you, right? That's just all there is to it. So, I find that there's a lot of like faddishness that goes on in the natural health world. And that's why I try to be like the anti-natural health guru. Like, I'm just a person who's sharing person to person what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, what I've learned, little insights, little tidbits, right? And so, there's the people that are like singing the praises of the Berkey from the rooftops, and maybe they're affiliates, maybe they're making some cash off it, I don't know. And then there's the people that are trashing the Berkey and, oh, Berkey's a sham and Berkey's a scam, and and it doesn't really matter what the product is. You've usually got people on both sides, both sides of that fence. So the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, right? Sometimes it's just a straight up scamming company, but basically from the results that I've had, I would say Berkey's not just a scam. It does filter out the, almost all of the contaminants, or a considerable amount of contaminants. It far and away improves tap water, okay? And even these days, like deep well water and spring water, unfortunately, can have like substantial contaminants in them too. So the deep well water people who feel all smug that they don't have to drink city water, which I used to be one of those people, you should really consider maybe testing your water, your well water as well, because it, sometimes won't hurt just to run it through some type of filtration device. The other thing you can do is you can do 2 filtration systems and actually have like the water filtered through one and then have it come through another, right? You could put a reverse osmosis system in and then filter it through Berkey, or you can filter it through Berkey and then you can filter it through one of those water pitcher systems, because there are a lot of water pitcher systems that are fairly inexpensive and easy to use. Then again, though, you're changing out more filters and more often, because those water pitcher filters, I believe, have to be changed pretty regularly. So there's so many, it's exhausting. It is friggin' exhausting. There's so many things to look into, so many possible problems, so many possible issues, just trying to stay healthy in this world. But basically, this isn't a situation where you need to just fire out your Berkey, like toss your Berkey system in the trash and start from scratch. But at the same time, I'm bringing up legitimate issues. So if you don't own one of these systems, maybe it's not going to be for you. That's just all there is to it. But I think we need to get out of this reactionary zone where we're just like either absolutely like glorifying something or absolutely trashing it. Like, I just don't think most things fall in that realm. I think it's like what works for you or what doesn't work for you, and then basically again trading the issues of this system for the issues of this system, because there isn't going to be one gold star, as far as I know, not at this stage in the technology. There isn't going to be one perfect system. But anyway, so yeah, that's just my take on Berkey in a nutshell. Like I say, I've had it for almost 6 years, and I'm planning to stick with it with these. I've just finally primed the new set of filters. I'm in the process of doing the red food coloring test, so let's hope I've got this under control, and then I'll put the fluoride filters back on and off to the races for hopefully another 5 years. But I'll watch it, I'll see what happens. Again, the fluoride filters have to be changed every 2 years, so those are much more shorter lifespan. So anyway, no endorsements of any products will be coming through this channel, so please don't take it as such. Again, I'm just trying to help other people with things that have helped me, help other people with information that's helped me, and help you to make the best choices for your health, and the choices you make might not be the choices that I make, and that is a-okay.